Good morning, it's Andrew, the Urban Bayman. And I'm stopped on the South Side Road in St. John's, Newfoundland. Over my shoulder here is what we refer to as the White House. Now, you can imagine the confusion when guests arrive. It's not white, right? It was owned by the White family, and it's a spectacular home and barn, one of the last barns, I believe, that you can actually see in the city of St. John's. The White House, the Southside Road is a path that we use frequently when we have guests during the summertime. It leads to the small boat basin. It provides a really interesting view of the harbour. And these homes provide they cause a certain element of confusion for our guests. Everybody asks about this, probably more questions than what the White House itself receives. Because it's such a magnificent building, it's so beautifully structured, it's obviously a home of great wealth, and yet it's facing right on the front of the industrial part of the city. It just doesn't fit in. Now, one of the reasons, and we've known this for quite some time, okay? The confusion, of course, was with the fact that in front of us is a rail yard, right? But when this home was built in the mid-1800s, this yard would have actually been the westernmost extension of St. John's Harbour. This would have actually been waterfront property, which only makes sense because when we've done our research, and you can read it now right on the front of the building, there's a beautiful plaque there. Excuse me. This was a sealing captain's house, right? It was built in the mid-1800s, and one of the things that you have to realize is that beyond the fact that it was at one time waterfront property, it is also an example of the measures that we would have taken as a city to ensure that we didn't face another fire in the city of St. John's. Most major cities, look, we talk about the fire of London, New York, all of these cities, right? It was very common years ago for fires when they got raging. Look, a lot of wooden construction, when fires got going, they were difficult to control, right? St. John's has been burned to the ground on 3 separate occasions: 1816, 1846, and 1892. And guests will often ask, why didn't you do something to try and prevent these fires? And again, you'll remember that whenever you have a question like that, whenever things in Newfoundland defy logic, you can be pretty certain, right? It's time for you to start asking a few questions, because there is always some reasoning behind it. And as is the case with the White House, and as we've discovered, the city did indeed implement measures after the fire of 1846, because that was a horrific fire. After the fire of 1846, we secured a water supply at the top of Signal Hill, right? George's Pond. It is, say 300 feet higher than the city itself, right? Gravity-fed water supply, right? With a great drop, you'd have lots of pressure. They had a great piping system. They widened the streets, made avenues, put in modern firefighting equipment. We had hydrants. I mean, they really took extreme measures, even going so far as to ban the production of oil from the north side of the harbour. Because the White House, which is named for Captain White was a sealing captain, right? And you've heard me say in these videos before, look, what did we use before we had hydrocarbons? Why do you think whales and seals love hydrocarbons so much? They're a lot less concerned about climate change and environmental warming than we are. In fact, when you look at the feed that's in the water these days, they're probably supportive of it. But maybe that's another discussion and too foolish for words. But the city banned the rendering of seals and whales from the north side of the harbour. So industrialists like Mr. White were forced to make other arrangements. Again, it's the oil industry, and just like today, and if not necessarily today, because everything is in some state of limbo right now, but let's go back 10 years when the oil and gas industry was booming and money was being spent so, I would even go to the extreme of saying, frivolously. The same was true back in the 1800s, when instead of hydrocarbons, we were using seals and whales for our oil supply. There was so much money in it that Captain White, the Jobs, the Bowerings, all of these families, they were able, I mean, look, there was a reason people weren't on the south side of the harbour. There was no frontage here. But because there was so much money in the oil and gas, not gas, then in the oil industry in those days, they were able to create, to build, to spend the money that was required to create infrastructure, to make this part of the harbour more accessible. So like I said, before the rail yard was here, this was the harbour. They would have had waterfront property. They actually built caverns into the sides of the cliffs for storing their oil, right? It was a different period of time. Now guys, it's taken me a few days and several attempts to make this video. And over the course of that period, well, let's not kid ourselves. I've caused the owners some concern, and they actually came out, approached me the other day and said, you know, what are you doing out here? Well, once I explained myself and they had an opportunity to introduce themselves, I found out something that's even more fascinating. A couple of things about this house. Only in Newfoundland, guys. And I shouldn't say that, but boy, I'm telling you now, the family that came out to greet me, guess what? They were whites. The same family has been in this residence since, I think, 1878, 1876 when it was built. They also told me, and for our Great Big Sea fans, I can't wait to share this one with our guests because everybody knows Great Big Sea. For our Great Big Sea fans, Captain White, Tickle Cove Pond, Alan Doyle song, beautiful song, wonderful lyrics. That's about Captain White, who's back here in this home. Little bit of trivia, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of thinking for this Saturday morning. I hope you are continuing to enjoy our videos. I hope you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And from me, Andrew, the Urban Bayman, I'll wish you a great day. Thanks kindly for watching.